Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
me, I'm Rob. Let's get the show on the road.
I told you, keep telling you, I wish it was a mobile show. That'd be awesome. Imagine like in a Winnebago, traveling the country, meeting Giants fans, talking Giants football, crying together, drinking together, getting belligerently drunk together. It'd be fun. I enjoy it.
We suck again.
They're still the coach and GM.
But it's going to be the last man standing next year.
So, guys, we got a little bit of Giants news to go over with you guys today. With that, also, we're continuing our series on reviewing the Giants players in this past season here with our linebackers. Now, we are saying off-ball linebackers, not edge rushers. We already did that part there. So, let's start right off there with the Giants news here. So, one of the guys the Giants have been potentially, rumored to be interested in, we were interested last year, Russell Wilson. Is he off the table now? And that's because of some quotes that came out recently. First off, talking about the Steelers at the end of the season, he said, obviously, this year was an exciting year in a lot of ways. It was tough at the end, obviously. We didn't get it done, but I've got more in me, man. I'm excited. My goal is to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long time. Hopefully finish my career there, God willing. I'm just trusting God and the process. Yeah, and that was on the Pat McAfee show, guys. So it's like, wasn't like a random quote he said, after the season when he was just the heat of the moment. No, this was something he said when he was just calm, collected in an interview. He also was asked about if they've already talked about him coming back next year. And he said, yes, we have kind of started to talk a little bit. Obviously, we have our meetings and everything else. We're kind of just getting into it. I think an exciting time, obviously, to be a Pittsburgh Steeler and the opportunity of what we can do. I think at the same time, Omar Khan and Coach Mike Tomlin, I really love those two and who they are and the team we can put together. So, yeah, it sounds like Russell Wilson wants to stay a Steeler. Now, Mike Tomlin was obviously asked about it at the end of the season. Let's be honest, this is one of the biggest offseason moves for the Steelers is, are they going to keep Wilson or they keep Fields and they try to keep both, which I think is probably impossible? Do they keep neither one and go crazy and do something completely off the walls? Who knows? Tomlin says, we're certainly open to considering Wilson and Fields, but there's a lot of work ahead of us. The major work obviously starts first and foremost with just understanding what our options are, what the field looks like in terms of free agency, what the draft pool looks like. So that's the interesting part is Russell Wilson's like, I want to stay a Steeler for life. I want to be there. Let me stay in Pittsburgh forever. And there's Tomlin going, we're going to look at our options.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can't really say he's off the table because he's saying he wants to be there for life.
Yeah.
But does that mean Pittsburgh wants them to?
But it sounds like they basically, if they offer him a deal, he's going to take it.
Yeah.
That's basically what it sounds like. And that's why we're saying like he could very well be off the table as an option. Now, the nice thing is, if that happens, you got to think Justin Fields is available. And that's what I'd prefer. He's younger. He has, room for growth at that point there. He actually, if you want to be honest, looked better when they played him at the beginning of the season. Looked a lot better than he looked at as a Bear. That's for damn sure. Not that saying much, but yeah, I think he has the potential. Now, Russell Wilson, though, on the other end of it, is that veteran presence. He's that guy that if we do draft a Sanders, Ward, or whoever, could be that guy to kind of take them under his wing, and do that. But as long as he doesn't teach them phrases like let's ride. Let's ride, that's the big thing. Like I think marketing wise, we can, keep him out of that, like the Mr. Unlimited thing and all that kind of stuff. Like he just doesn't have that in him. But, as a player, listen, if you were to draft a player right now and tell me, hey, Russell Wilson is going to take this kid under his wing and he's going to make him a little Russell Wilson, basically. Obviously, figuratively speaking, because Russell Wilson's already little, you can't make him any smaller.
He's really tiny. He's,
But if you told me you're going to get a guy and he's going to potentially have, that kind of guy teaching him the way, like, if we drafted a quarterback in this draft and he became the next Russell Wilson, you'd be ecstatic. Russell Wilson, I would say probably, and I don't want to overstate it because I don't think it's a definite thing, but he's a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, I think. He's a guy with some consideration. I'm not sure if he gets in or not, but he'll get consideration for it at the very least.
Definitely very good.
Yeah, goes to 2 Super Bowls, wins 1, should have won the second if it wasn't for Pete Carroll and that stupid pass play. And overall was one of the better teams in his prime. And his offenses that he was in were always very good, minus the first year in Denver.
Yeah, I was going to say, he comes out of the draft and, he goes literally putting him way back in the draft. Yeah. Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
but he comes out of the draft and literally he's in the Super Bowl, a couple of years later.
Yeah. Now there was an interesting story I saw on TikTok of the day. Luckily, it's back. So John Gruden, who, listen, fan or not of John Gruden, and listen, I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of John Gruden because that's a whole topic of its own right there. But the guy knows football. I think no matter whether you like him or not, you have issue with the emails, whatever, he knows football. I don't think that's up for debate. When he was doing his ESPN stuff, they asked him, because he's now at Barstool Sports, they asked him point blank, when you did all these meetings with these quarterbacks, who's the one guy that you weren't impressed with? And he refused to answer that part of the question, but he said, who I was really impressed with? Flipped it, which I like, with a little positivity. He said, Russell Wilson. He's like, Pete Carroll actually called me up and asked me about Russell Wilson, and I said point blank, because they got Matt Flynn at the time. They got a couple of guys in there to be their quarterback already, and they were thinking about it. And he said, listen, point blank, you bring in Russell Wilson, he will beat out the guys you have in that roster right now, and you will never regret that decision. He has that drive, he has that mentality, and he's going to be that good. If you can get a guy like that to go ahead and be a guy that could be, a mentor for someone, especially get a mid-round guy instead, like a Jackson Dart or somebody like that, or a Will Howard, or whoever you want to talk about there, that can teach him that kind of mentality. Like, hey, listen, I'm here. Look what I did in my career. I was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a top 10 pick to be a star in this league. Prove it. You get the chance. Like I said, again, I prefer Fields over him. But there's definitely some pros to having Russell Wilson, I think, on this roster, especially as a bridge-style kind of quarterback there. And if the Steelers don't get him, he's an interesting option. But like I said, it kind of stinks because he's publicly out there now saying, I want to be a Steeler. And you know what the biggest problem I have with that is now? Good luck coming into a press conference if you get signed by somebody else saying, I wanted to be here the whole time. That was a media issue on his part, I think. He shouldn't have said that. You gave the Steelers all the cards, and you made it look like wherever you go, if you don't go to the Steelers now, it's your silver medal. You didn't really want to be there. You're only there because the Steelers didn't want you.
Yeah.
I'm right. Whether it affects that much long term, no, but at the very beginning, it's at least going to be a little bit awkward. Because the questions will come in for the media and all saying point blank, you wanted to be a Steeler. They didn't want you. How do you think about that?
I mean, he's a very religious guy. All he has to do is say it's God's plan, and no one's going to question him.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you don't need to say stuff like that. You don't. You say it behind closed doors all you want. All players do it all the time, especially when you're talking to the team. Like, listen, I want to come back here. But when you're in front of the cameras and you got the media in front of you, I'd love to go back to Pittsburgh. I had a great time there. We'll have to see what the future holds. And you just shut up. Like I said, maybe media is not what he should be teaching the young quarterback we get.
No, definitely not.
I mean, that and the Mr. Unlimited. Like, he needs to not be part of that. But
Unlimited.
Playing wise, he's an upgrade over anybody else that we have in the roster last year. He is a guy who, again, could be a good mentor. And if we get him, I'm not upset. But I kind of hope the Steelers do get him, because that means Justin Fields will probably not stick around.
Yeah.
If you're Justin Fields and you get the option to start on a team like the Giants. And I'm not just saying the Giants. There's the Raiders, other teams as well that'll probably try to get him. But if you have a team like the Giants that's calling you up and say, listen, we're going to give you a chance to start here, of course you're going to take that over going back to Pittsburgh. And they're telling you point blank, Russell Wilson was signed to be the starter. Yeah. Because I don't think Russell Wilson signs if he's not named the starter right off the bat.
Yeah, probably not.
So, all righty, guys. We talked about a PFF naming our most improved yesterday. Today, they gave us a list of their secret superstars. And our secret superstar was named Dru Phillips.
Ooh.
Interesting one there, because they're not wrong in that. I mean, I still think word is kind of getting out to a certain degree on what he did this season. You know, obviously he played in a very bad team, which never helps you publicity-wise. But this is what they had to say about him. They said, Malik Nabers was the headliner rookie for New York, but Phillips was great in his own right. Among qualified cornerbacks, Phillips' 77.5 PFF overall grade ranks 7th. 7th.
Yeah.
His 78.1 run defense grade placed 15th, and his 75.8 PFF coverage grade slotted 11th. Amongst all defensive rookies to play 500 or more snaps, Phillips ranked 3rd in PFF overall grade, trailing only Jared Verse and Edgerrin Cooper. Now, those guys, obviously, edge rusher with Verse, I believe, with the Rams, and then Cooper was the linebacker that the Packers got. So that means he was their top-rated rookie corner. With the Giants needing more help on the boundary in the secondary, Phillips seems like a cornerstone slot man and a gem of a pick by Joe Shane. They're not wrong at all what they just said, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, Rob and I admit freely when we say things that were right and say things that were wrong. We weren't very high on the Phillips pick when they made it. We thought he was more of a project. We thought he'd be, somebody needed a lot of help. And I still think he did need a lot of help and probably got a lot of help in training camp and all, because all the flexibility, hip issues and stuff that we saw in him on college tape, we're not there this season. We're not there at all. Yeah. And I love that, because that tells me this kid is not only is he a really talented player, we knew the athleticism was there to begin with. We never questioned that part of it. But it tells me he's coachable. And that's huge. Absolutely freaking huge. Especially as you got a new defensive backs coach coming in. Because he may have to do a little bit of a different role next year. He may get a different voice and a guy who might give him more tips. Some good, potential. I mean, listen, no coach is perfect. There are things that I'm sure that he may not do 100% that maybe Jerome Henderson didn't figure out. I mean, I look at this and go, yeah, slam dunk. It was a slam dunk pick. It really was. Again, we've said it before. A lot of the redrafts, when different publications do their redraft of the first round from last year, they put Phillips in there. And rightfully so. He was, like I said, PFF's top-rated rookie corner this year. Which is why yesterday we talked about the PFWA doing their all-rookie team. We said, point blank, Phillips should have been on there. And like I said, he's a slot corner, and they did a base 4-3 defense, and that's why he wasn't on there, because they didn't do a slot corner. But that's a position I think they should have included, because teams are in the dime nickel packages much more than in base packages nowadays, this modern NFL. But like I said, he deserves a lot of credit. And as much as we were saying before about he was a project, and Jerome Henderson deserves credit for him, fixing some of the hip issues and the motion issues and, things of that nature. Again, Phillips deserves a ton of credit for, like we said, being coachable, fixing those mistakes, and having a hell of a rookie season. I'm excited to see what he's going to do next year. I really am. I'm actually curious. They said a cornerstone slot man. I'm curious if they try to move him outside. I really am. After what he did and how desperate we are for outside corners. I mean,
they may. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Depending on what's going on. Like, do we sign Dory Jackson back? Like, I mean, he looked better.
God, no, don't even say that.
Well,
I think I just threw up my mouth a little bit there.
Listen, we're strong on over in the outside corner, so you take what you can get.
Listen, there's got to be better. There's got to be better, that's for sure. And he played that outside corner position in college. So that's definitely a possibility. I'll pull up the stats real quick because PFF actually lists still his draft profile, and they gave you where he lined up. So in 23, his last year at Kentucky, 412 snaps at outside corner, 223 at slot. So he did do both, but he moved around. And that would make a lot of sense to give him that kind of role potentially. Like, let's say if you're facing a team, I'm just going to pull a random team off the top of my head. Let's say you're playing a team like the Lions, dynamic offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown often plays in the slot position, obviously. Then, yeah, it would make sense to put Phillips in the slot, let your best slot guy go ahead and cover their best receiver. But other games, it might make more sense to put Dru Phillips, like on a guy like CeeDee Lamb or something like that. Again, depending on what we do the rest of this season, off season, I should say, at the corner position. If we don't get a top corner, hypothetically, in this offseason, there's not a lot available, guys, because that's not a position that people let top players go at often. But if we don't get one, then it might make some sense to say, what the hell? Let's put Phillips out there sometimes. Let's move him in and out. He's got that ability. He's shown that ability in college. And you see what he does. And if he falters, you put him back on the inside. You do before it messes him up and ruins his confidence.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you don't want to ruin what you got. But like I said, I am curious because I'm telling you right now, he's a hell of a lot better of a corner than Deontay Banks is.
Of what we've seen so far.
Oh, listen, Deontay Banks does not look good so far. I'm just gonna call it point blank like it is. He has not looked good so far. And Phillips has done a lot, but he's done a lot from the slot, and he's done very well from there. I mean, even pass rush wise. I'm looking at his grades there, 66.9 pass rush grade, which doesn't sound that good per se because it's not very high. But again, from the corner position, he's ranked 37th out of 223 corners for his pass rush grade. Think about that. From a rookie year, and this is overall corners, 15th highest overall grade out of 223. 37th pass rush, 25th run defense, and 20th coverage. That's not too shabby at all, guys. And that's his rookie year when he said he's going to be a project. I still think he's going to get better. I still think he's going to improve as he gets more used to having the fluidity in his hips and the movement and stuff that he didn't necessarily have in college. Because you saw it every so often. He'd make that move and it'd take just a split tenth of a second longer than it should have. And he loses enough at that point there where his physicality and his ability to, his speed let him catch up sometimes. But sometimes he got burnt because of it. So I'm curious to see what the rest of it brings. But he's definitely one of the more exciting Giants players going into next year, that's for sure.
100%. Without a doubt.
All right, guys. Let's give you guys some good news. It's very rare we can do that, guys. So we want to give you good news. Guess who's back? Back again. Brandon Brown's back. Tell a friend. Yeah, so the assistant GM here for the Giants, Brandon Brown, has been doing his rounds with the Las Vegas Raiders for their GM position. Went through 2 different interviews there, but they ultimately passed up on him overall. They got John Spytek, the assistant GM for the Bucks up till that point. We talked about John during our potential GM replacements because he was a guy that we thought was a potential guy. Should have seen the writing on the wall. Because I didn't, listen, I admit for you guys, we follow the Giants nonstop. I don't pretend to follow every single team nonstop because there's only so much nonstop I got in my life.
Yeah.
We do a lot of hours with Giants content. So, but I should have thought that the whole John Spytek with the Bucks thing, because obviously Tom Brady was a player when John was in Tampa Bay. There's got to be probably some sort of connection there. And there was probably some familiarity and there was probably some sort of relationship that probably helped that out. Not to say John didn't deserve it. We talked about him again as a candidate if we fired Joe Shane. He definitely deserved it. But like I said, he definitely, I think, had an edge in that role there. But I'm glad to have Brandon Brown back, guys. I really am. And that's assuming that nobody else tries to pluck him. But I think besides the Jaguars, I think pretty much all the spots are taken there. So the Jaguars just fired their GM. But if we do get him back next year, it's a blessing, guys, because he's somebody that honestly I think could replace Joe Shane. If they decide to keep it in-house and just replace Joe Shane, which is the Giant way typically. From your mouth to God's ears on that one there. But he's a guy who I think could step in and do the job. I really do. So the only guy we have left to worry about, if you want to say worry, on our coaching staff is Mike Kafka. And I've said it all along. I will continue to say it. I think Mike Kafka needs to move on because I think him and Brian Dable, it just doesn't click, and it is what it is. You know, I'm not trying to blame either side, though. Obviously, you know, the writing's on the wall because Dable's had trouble with almost every single coach in the building. So I got to think that Dable's probably the main culprit in this whole thing. But Mike Kafka and Aaron Glenn were going to be the two guys that they wanted to have a second interview with in New Orleans. Well, Aaron Glenn has now taken the job for the Jets. So unless they open it back up again, Mike Kafka is sitting kind of in the driver's seat here for that Saints job. And to me, again, it's absolutely insane that you would think about getting a guy who literally
had the worst offense.
Yeah, again, I know he was able to do the play calling, but he was the offensive coordinator still for the worst offense in the entire league. And you're like, that's the guy I should hire. But, you know, it is what it is. More power to them as they do. Like I said, I think it's better for Kafka to get out of New York at this point. It's not even me disrespecting him. It's actually me respecting him and saying, like, I feel like he's been held captive the last couple of years. You know, last year he wanted to be the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks. The Giants turned him down from even interviewing for the job because it was a lateral move after the Seahawks nearly hired him to be their head coach. So, you know, again, if that's what he wants in life, I hope it for him. I think the Giants will be just fine without him. Not to say that he's not, you know, doesn't have abilities as an offensive coach, but it's like, what's going to happen? Are we going to have the worst offense in the league without Kafka? We had it with them.
Yeah.
We have nowhere to go but up.
I was about to say, we can only go up from here.
Exactly. I mean, maybe Shea Tierney becomes the offensive coordinator in that scenario. And, you know, maybe like Dable actually listens to him and trusts him because he's got much more of a relationship. He came with him from, you know, from Buffalo there. Maybe they hire a guy like Davis Webb to be their new offensive coordinator, you know, who's I think is a guy now with a track record of, you know, being the next, you know, of being a quarterback coach that can actually get the best out of a young quarterback, or even in Russell Wilson's case, an older quarterback. So, yeah, like I said, I don't think it's the end of the world for the Giants. Plus, if the Saints hire Mike Kafka, we get 2 third-round comp picks for it. So we would get 1 in 25, 1 in 26, and 1 in 27, which means, again, even for this one, it means we have some extra draft capital if we want to do some trades. If we need to trade up, trade around at that point to go get a quarterback or whatever we want there. So, like I said, we'll keep an eye on that one for you. But at least for now, Brandon Brown is safe pending any kind of, you know, other moves that might go on. Like I said, Jacksonville comes to mind there, and they're going to be desperate for a GM. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. So, all righty, guys, let's pay the bills real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and get into comments. Then we're going to do our review of the 2024 Giants off-ball linebackers there.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. All
righty, guys. And, of course, with that, you always have the ability also to sponsor the show here by doing a super chat on YouTube. Or also by doing a stars on Facebook or the freeway. Just hit like and subscribe and share to a friend at that point there.
Tell a friend.
Like point blank, we always say we are horrible at marketing. We don't hide it. We say it point blank. We need help from y'all at that point to spread the word. So thank you very much in advance for helping us out there. Because I know a lot of y'all that are watching have already been doing that there. So keep up the good work and much appreciated. All right, let's go to some comments real quick, and then we'll get to the linebackers.
Yeah.
John says, hi, Goofy Balls. It's Balls. Goofballs, not Goofy Balls, John. Come on.
When you click the link to get here, you saw Goofballs, not Goofy
He's
Balls.
only been watching this show for, what, 2 years? Probably 2 years we've known John now. Right? It's scary.
Maybe longer, right? Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
Well, it's only been about 2 years we've been doing the video, and I don't think, unless he was listening to audio beforehand. So, yeah. Andre says, yo, boys, what's up, man?
Yo.
I'm happy in this picture.
Right?
Hirsch for life. Fellas, thoughts on drafting Abdul Carter at 3 and then Jackson Dart in the second round? Again, I think that I think that we need to find a way to get one of the quarterbacks if you like them enough. If we don't, I just get nervous about spending a third overall pick on an edge rusher. We just signed one to a $30 million contract. And, we also, on top of that, drafted one a couple of years ago with the 5th overall pick. It's like you're putting too much in that basket, I feel like. Now, I know a lot of people like Abdul Carter. I think he's definitely have to add some weight in the NFL. He's a little light, I think. And I think when the combine comes out, we'll find out his real weight. And I think you'll probably actually see him put on some pounds before that just to make himself not seem so skinny. But I think that he's a great player. Listen, Penn State guys always get talented athletic players, and unfortunately, they usually don't always have the best production in college. Even it's something about Penn State and getting great players that don't produce necessarily, but somehow get drafted high. But Carter has produced. So, I think he's a good player. I don't know. I feel like we keep on putting more and more into the edge position, whereas we're leaving corner alone. I mean, how many years have we been talking about the corner position being an issue now? We got Will Johnson sitting there potentially, Travis Hunter potentially sitting there. I think you can get an edge rusher later on and say, you know what, we already invested in Burns, we already invested in Thibodeau, but it all depends on what you think on the players. If you think Abdul Carter is that great, you can't pass him up, then do it. Stick to your guts. 12 sacks, 24 tackles for loss, 16 games. That's a legit player, guys. I'm not knocking it in any way, shape, or form. I just don't think he's my first pick, at least right now.
No.
Well, he's not the guy I'm like, we need to get a 3. But I wouldn't be pissed if we did it. I just want to see the whole plan. And getting Jackson Dart in the 2nd round would make me better at that point about it, because that tells me they have a lot of confidence in Dart, and he's somebody who can sit behind a veteran quarterback for a year or two learning and then take it from there, So could be worse, but I'm just not so sure. Like I said, I don't know. I mean, I look at, again, I think he's going to have to put some weight on. And is he still as fast as he is with some weight on? Because he was definitely a guy who counted on speed. So we'll see. We'll see. We also have to still do our deep dive at him. So it's hard for me to have a full-on opinion on him yet. This is just a little bit of work I've done and a little bit of I've seen in the college playoffs there with him there. So who knows? We could do our review of him later on. We actually do the edge rushers for the draft, and I can have a completely different opinion. We'll see. Jackson Dart, I'm pretty much sold on him being a guy that, like I said, would be, probably a 2nd, 3rd round guy for a lot of people. But again, he's a DJ. All the physical tools there, has trouble throwing in anticipation, has trouble reading defenses. Can you fix it? You're going to have to know you have to fix that if you could bring him in. So that's not always fixable. Sometimes it is. We'll find out. Deb says, trouble is the Giants also told Locke he was number 2. Why would Wilson or Fields believe them? Giants have lost credibility. No, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I've been saying that since halfway through the season.
In this scenario, it'd be number 1. Because even if you draft a guy, you don't want to go ahead and give, the guy, throw him to the wolves there, so to speak. We talked about. I like the idea of sitting him, even if to sit him for a whole year. I don't care. And if some of the fan base may get upset, especially if the Giants don't play well, and say play him. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of that at all.
I mean, just one example out there, and it's a pretty good example. What team in the NFL, probably the only team, has had 3 quarterbacks in the past 3 decades?
Yeah.
And what have they done with those quarterbacks? They've never thrown them to the wolves.
Nope.
You sit behind, you learn from the previous guy, and then you get in.
Well, look at the guys right now in the postseason. At that point, it's a mix, and that's why you can sit there and say it's both and both. I mean, Jaden Daniels was started obviously right off the bat. Jalen Hurts obviously sat for a little bit there. Patrick Mahomes sat for a bit. Josh Allen was thrown to the wolves. So, I mean, there's pros and cons, and I think part of it is the makeup and the personality of the individual. But I think it's a safer bet to let him sit, personally.
Yeah, 100%.
Sometimes you think it's the personality that can take it, and then you find out you were wrong. Just saying. Ronald says, what's let's say you think of Marquand Manuel as the new defensive backs coach. We talked about him yesterday. There was a little video segment we have out because we always do put our episodes out as video segments later on. But not a bad hire, a guy that's been to 3 Super Bowls as a defensive assistant coach. So we know you can win with him. So, I prefer having Jerome Henderson. I like Jerome Henderson. But again, you got a guy you can win with. You can't complain. That's for sure.
No.
Deb says, so Kafka's not good because he's OC with the worst offense in the league and isn't calling plays. Why does Brandon Brown get a pass? Who would want a GM from the worst team in the league? No, she's not wrong.
Third worst team in the league. Look at the draft order.
Yes. Thank you, Rob. Well, honestly, Deb, you're not wrong in that at all. But the difference comes into be is that the offensive coordinator is still doing things besides play calling. They're running the offensive meetings. They're running the drills. They're teaching players different things at that point. Whereas the assistant GM is literally just saying, this is what I would do. And it's up to Joe Shane to listen or not. That's the difference. There's nothing he can flat out control. Whereas Kafka, as the OC, does have some things he can control. And again, that's why I want to make sure I'm saying that. I don't know how much of the offensive problems were Mike Kafka and how much of them were Dable. If I had to guess, a lot of it is on Dable. Point blank. Because in 22, we had our best offensive year the last 3 years, and that was the 1 year Kafka was calling the plays the whole season. But Kafka's there. His hands aren't clean.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as dirty as Dable's.
And if you look at Hard Knocks, you see that Brown, a lot of his suggestions kind of came true.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't pretend to know everything that goes behind the scenes. There are some shows I know love to speculate and that kind of stuff. But from what we've seen of him, he seems to be, like I said, a smart up-and-coming executive at that point that I think will get a GM job in the next year or two. So why not be us? We have him in the building. If he's talented like that, why not do it? Because Joe Shane's not the answer. I'm sorry. Not the answer. Unless the question
peanut butter jelly sandwich and get out.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can answer to is the question, who wants peanut butter jelly sandwiches?
Are you going to cut it in half or diagonal?
Let's see. John says, I signed up for being out in coma in August for 1 to 2 years. So when I wake up, all the bad times with the Giants should be over. You know what, though? If you had said that 2 years ago, John, you'd be very disappointed right now, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Saying, it's been enough years. And then he says, you guys are goofier now, so I renamed you Goofy Balls. No, that just sounds bad. It sounds like a bad porno.
Yeah.
Goofy Balls.
It's like Lorraine Bobbitt's husband.
Andre says, I just saw on Reddit that the Titans would pass quarterback. It sounds like a smoke screen, just like they said when we had McCarthy ahead of Malik. Yeah, I mean we talked about that yesterday as well. I mean,
I was about to say we talked about that.
Yeah. You guys go on the show yesterday. It's like you don't like us. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
It's like it's a situation where again, that's the initial interview they had with the new GM for the Titans. They happen to have the president of football operations talk about it as well. You can't expect a team to go in with a brand new GM who just got into the building for the very first time and to sit there and say, yep, this is what we're doing with the first overall pick. He'd be stupid to do that. Even if they knew, let's say Cam Ward, for example, because Cam Ward's been the guy they've talked about for a while. Even if they knew Cam Ward's our guy, Cam Ward's our guy, Cam Ward's our guy, you're going to go in front of the camera. We're going to get a generational talent.
In their eyes,
because
in their eyes, that could be the generation talent they need.
It could be, but at the same point, they're going to get trade offers now. Why would you not want to at least listen to trade offers? Think about that as a Giant fan. What's the last time you remember a GM sitting there saying point blank, I didn't listen to trade offers? It was Dave Gettleman when he drafted Saquon Barkley, and he got lambasted for it, like he should have, because literally Baker Mayfield came off the board, who most teams did not have as the number 1 overall quarterback. They had Sam Darnold that year as the number 1 overall quarterback. And teams like the Jets would have traded up at the 1 spot in a heartbeat to guarantee Sam Darnold. You could have still gotten Saquon and gotten extra picks. Well, what if you get a situation like that again? You got to listen to the offers. You got to listen to the possibilities. What if the Giants said, we want to trade up? Who are you going to take? We're going to take Sanders, point blank, if we trade up. Okay, well, I want Cam Ward. So I'm going to go down to 3 potentially and still get Cam Ward. Because I think the Browns will take Travis Hunter. I mean, again, risks, options. I'm just saying, like, this is things that could potentially happen. You got to take that option and listen to the offers and take it from there. So, John says definitely Andre smokescreen. Yeah, like I said, there's definitely a good smokescreen part of it. This is the BS time of year. Whatever these guys say, you can't trust. John says, so you think 3 to 4 years then? Yeah, I'd say 5 to 6 to keep it safe.
What's a half decade? Whatever.
By then, we should be good to go. Yeah. All righty, guys. Let's get into our season review here for linebackers. Here again, this is off-ball linebackers. We're not talking edge rushers. We already had done that one there. Got to start off, of course, with the big guy, the big name, Bobby Okereke, who you could definitely say had a down year compared to last year, guys. I think it's a very safe statement to say. Overall in the year, 12 games, 93 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 QB hits, 6 tackles for loss, 3 passes deflected, and 2 fumbles recovered. He had a 74.9 PFF grade overall, 83.2 pass rush, 71.8 run defense, and 68.2 in the coverage. Now, again, those numbers are all from last year. He also missed a third of the season, basically, so that's definitely part of that. But we've talked about it before. Bobby Okereke, point blank, and I'm not going to try to blast the guy for it because there was definitely some effort issues across the board for the Giants. He made some business decisions last year, guys.
Yeah.
We saw it on replays. It was quite obvious when you watched all 22 on the games there. He definitely made some business decisions. And I don't know if that's because he was fighting an injury at that point, and that's why I'm giving him somewhat of a pass there. He might have already been kind of nursing an injury and said, I don't need to do this. I'm going to be out for the year if I do this.
Yeah.
That could be part of the equation. I know fans don't want to hear that. Don't get me wrong. I know that you as a fan do not want to hear that. But it happens every year in football, guys, where somebody goes, you know what? My knee's already hurting. If I do this, I might be in trouble.
Yeah.
This team needs the season much more than they need me for this play. You know.
Happens like that all the time.
Yeah, and like I said, I know you don't want to hear it, but that's a possibility. I don't know if it is the scenario or not. Again, these are things that unless you're Bobby Okereke, the training staff or Giants front office, you're not going to know. But even with what he did this year, being less than last year, he still have a hell of a damn good linebacker. A hell of a damn good linebacker. And I think that he's still a damn good addition to this team. I still hope he's going to be a player with the Giants for quite a long time because he's extremely smart. He runs, great at helping the defensive players get on positions at that point. He is a true captain at that point to this team. And, we still got him for another 2 years under contract, guys. And now we have to start paying him legit money. We paid him $4 million his first year with us, just short of shy of $7 million last year. Now he's going to be $14.5 million the next 2 years. And that's a lot for a linebacker. But he's still worth it. And if we 100%. Cut it this year, we only saved $3.5 million. So I think it's safe to say he's coming back. I think it's safe to say that, if he has a third good season, he's going to be 30 next and going into 26. Maybe you just re-sign him, extend him, get that number down. Get him another 3 or 4 year contract at that point and let him be a guy that ends his career with the Giants because he's that kind of player. I would not mind having him long term at all. He is that special, So, and how long before him do we have issues trying to find a linebacker?
Oh, Jesus.
Like a legit middle linebacker guy who, like I said, can sit there and be the quarterback of the defense, so to speak there. It's been a while. It's like a 10-year stretch with nobody. Like 1 year with John Beeson and a couple years with Antonio Pierce. Besides that, linebacker has been a depth of talent. Yeah. So keep what you got. You got a good guy, keep him. Figure out a way to make it work at that point. Like I said, we're going to have to bite the bullet this 1 year with the $14.5 million cap hit. But maybe, like I said, you do an extension and cut that number down to maybe $10 million the next year after that. You get a little more money back. So, we'll see what the Giants do. And it all depends, obviously, what Okereke does next year. But I still think he's got plenty of years in him. Like I said, he's only going to be 29 this season coming up. He's in his prime right now, guys.
He's a wee baby.
Well, you figured 31, 32 around there is kind of the end of a prime for a linebacker. late 20s, early 30s is when they're in their prime at that point. Because not only it's weird because you talk about age a lot with running backs, and 30s when they are done. 30 for a linebacker is like peak because you've been playing in the league long enough, you've seen things and you can read plays and you can see what's coming at that point. And the mental part of it is at its peak, while you're still at the barely in the peak of your physical part as well, too. You know what I mean? Because you don't take the beating you do as a running back, which is weird because 9 times out of 10 it's a linebacker hitting running back, but
Go figure.
It's a whole other thing. So, all right. Next up, Micah McFadden. And talk about a guy that wasn't even, let's be honest, wasn't even the first linebacker drafted that year. That was Darian Beavers at that point that was drafted first when, a couple of years ago. One of the very few Joe Shane picks that really have worked out very well prior to this year's draft class. 14 games, 14 starts. And I'm not sure what happened to my notes here on his tackling numbers here overall, but something happened. Apparently he has 1-7.
Ooh.
So 107, I just looked it up real quick. 107 tackles, 3 sacks, 6 QB hits, 8 tackles for loss, a pass deflected, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. Got a 62.8 PFF grade, 79.6 pass rush grade, 66.0 run defense, and a 53.5 coverage grade. And he is exactly what he was last year, guys. Let's be very frank on this. He is a guy that you put into the first 2 downs. And you look at it, and this is a guy that you can go ahead and put in run plays. You can go ahead and put him in, like I said, short yardage situations. But if you're asking him to cover a tight end of any passing ability whatsoever, a running back of any catching ability whatsoever, you're going to be in trouble. And that's why last year, remember, they were doing Isaiah Simmons and him and crossing that back and forth at that point because Isaiah Simmons could be that third down linebacker, which just sounds weird to say, a third down linebacker. But, all the injuries and all this year, McFadden got a little more exposed to those issues. But he's a good player overall. It's just a matter of, do we think he's a good enough player for what he's going to be cap-wise now as he's getting towards the end of, his rookie deal at that point. This year coming up, he's got a $3.4 million cap hit. And only $89,000 is guaranteed. So
wait, 89,000 like 809,000.
No, 89 as in 89,000.
Yeah.
So
just want to make sure the decibel's right there. Damn.
Yeah.
That's like
yeah, he's a guy that we literally could save $3.25 million by cutting. So I think if McFadden comes back next year, which I'm not against in any way, shape, or form, I'm not against it. If he comes back, though, he's a guy that you're going to probably have to sign to an extension to get that number down a little bit there because it's so tempting to get $3.25 million back. Because Micah McFadden is good on the team, don't get me wrong. But don't tell me you couldn't go get a guy for $2 million and save him $1 million. And we know that Joe Shane would make a move to save $1 million. Look, he cut Nick McLeod and threatened his rent payments over, a couple $100,000?
It's nuts.
So, we'll have to see what happens to McFadden. I don't think it's a guarantee to be back next year necessarily because of that cap issue there at that point. We have plenty of cap space right now, but we'll see what happens as we start signing more players, especially because if we do sign a quarterback, that's going to take a good chunk of our cash availability there. So we might look to make some moves. But McFadden is a guy that, again, as long as we can keep a reasonable cap, which I'm sorry, $3.4 million for the record is a reasonable cap. But we can get that down a little bit. It makes it a guy that you're definitely say, okay, we're going to keep McFadden. We're going to keep him going. Because you got a guy we're talking about a minute ago, Darius Muasau, that could probably go ahead and take the spot from McFadden. And he's not as good as McFadden, but he's not necessarily a huge drop-off.
Yeah, which is a lot less.
Yeah, for, $3 million less. Because he's on his second year of his rookie deal. So he's a lot less money. So let's talk about Muasau, though, because that's who's next up. We already kind of started talking about him a little bit there. So Darius Muasau, again, one of our was actually our last draft pick of the 24 NFL draft, and a guy that everybody kind of went, who? What? When he got drafted, every year there's that one guy like, who? What? Last year that guy that watches every single college game at that point. But That's who it was this year. Was Darius Musa was the guy. 15 games, 7 starts, 55 tackles, 1 QB hit, 3 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflected, and 1 interception. Yes, he tied for the lead in the team with 1 interception. 56.8 PFF grade, 51.1 pass rush grade, 68.1 run defense grade, and a 46.8 coverage grade. Like I said, he is literally a poor man's version of Micah McFadden.
Pretty much.
And that's why I wonder if McFadden might be an issue with this roster next year, because, again, we could save a lot of money, but you have a cheaper version in Musa, who's literally getting paid a flat $1 million next year instead and could do similar. Is there a drop-off? Yes. Is it a $2.5 million difference in the drop-off? You could argue that. And Musa is that same kind of guy where you can put him in the first couple of downs, and you're going to probably want to bring somebody in at that point to replace him on third downs. He's definitely not a good coverage guy, at least yet. Maybe that changes with time. Again, it's just his rookie year. Things do tend to improve over time. Hopefully, God willing.
Yeah.
But again, Musa, I think, surprised some people. We thought, okay, this is a guy that's probably going to be a special teamer, and that's about it. And obviously, again, with all the injuries and all, he had to kind of play a bigger role. He ended up, starting early on in the year, even when McFadden was hurt. Started later on in the season too, when Okereke was hurt as well. So I mean, he got some extra playing time, and that's a good thing sometimes for a young player, as long as they don't fall flat in their face. And I wouldn't say Musa did. So what didn't hurt his confidence? It gave him experience. It gave him abilities to be a little more confident, if anything, in what he was doing, because he wasn't embarrassing himself. Wasn't great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to overtalk the kid. Wasn't like I expect Pro Bowls and game balls going his way quite often, but he's a legitimate NFL player. And when you get a guy in the 5th round that can do that, that's a good pick. That's a good pick there. And like I said, now you got some flexibility if you need some cap space with the whole McFadden situation, because if you get a guy that basically duplicates what he does. So
for a third of the cost.
Exactly. So let's talk about the next up here. We got to talk about Ty Summers, who's a guy that wasn't even on the roster at the beginning, was a Saint to start the year. Ended up being in 16 games with 2 starts, 29 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflected there. Only had 112 snaps on defense, though, guys. This was our guy that became one of our special teamers, especially with Matthew Adams, who we'll talk about in a little bit here, who got hurt for much of the season. And you had on top of that, Carter Coughlin was brought back, and Carter Coughlin was only literally in 12 snaps the entire season. So, spoiler alert, we're not even talking about him. 12 snaps.
Yeah.
10 of them on special teams. There was no need to talk about him. But Ty Summers, like I said, kind of fit that role that Coughlin had prior. Coughlin and Cam Brown both were originally gone, and that's the roles that these guys had, and Ty Summers fit that role. So, again, just 112 snaps on defense, 217 on special teams. I would say this. I don't think he's going to be back next year, probably. I think he's a guy that you kind of throw out there and say, you know what? You want to bring him into camp? Okay. But if Ty Summers is on your roster, you better have had some injuries, or else something's wrong.
Yeah, it's camp vibes what he is.
It's exactly what he is. And no disrespect to the man. I appreciate what he did for the Giants here coming in off injuries and providing some support to the special teams there. But I just don't like... I feel like the Giants keep having guys that are specifically special teamers while also having depth issues.
Yeah, which is a big issue.
Yeah. Like, we have depth issues because you're getting guys that are just special teamers. So, maybe it's time to try to get some guys who are linebackers who just happen to play special teams instead of special teamers who can occasionally pop in a linebacker.
Yeah, that's an issue.
You should be able to do both. So, all righty. Next up, Matthew Adams, a guy we had.
Oh, the Adams family.
From. Listen, I wouldn't say that. That man looks like he could definitely bench press you and me both. Like that guy, that's like the no neck guy. Okay, like, but 13 games, no starts, 4 tackles, 1 fumble recovery, literally just played one defensive snap the entire season, 306 special teams snaps, overall. And again, this was a guy that we had high hopes for as a special teamer. I don't think necessarily the performance was there we hoped for this year at the special teams, at least tackling wise. I got to admit freely, I'm not watching all 22 on all the special team snaps for him again. Not doing it.
Not gonna do it.
Not gonna do it. We're gonna talk about just off the stats of what he did there at that point. 4 tackles, 306 special team snaps. Definitely a big downfall from what he did, previously with Cleveland. But again, he was coming off an injury, missed the first couple games there. And a guy who's got a large track record of that. So if you want to bring him back as a special teamer, then go for it. But again, I'd love for us to find players that are special teamers, not special teamers that can't play more than 1 to 2 snaps a game on defense tops. That's
an issue.
Cutting it with the way our injury issues are. You got to get guys that can play both. So, one last guy we got. Deontay Johnson. I feel like we talked about this guy with high hopes here for a while now here. Ever since that preseason game against the Lions, where he really showed up after talking, all the writers were talking about how impressive he looked there in camp as well. 2 games, 11 tackles, a 48.8 PFF grade, 56.3 pass rush, 65.7 run defense, and 42.6 coverage. So not great numbers, but again, coming off of injuries, he missed the first 15 games, guys. That's not a small injury he had in preseason. Missed 2 of the 3 preseason games and missed 15 of the 17 games with that injury. So I think he's a guy you just bring into camp next year. You see what he's got, and you take it from there because, again, you had nothing you expected of him. He was undrafted free agent out of, little old Toledo at that point. You didn't expect much of him. He showed you a little something this past year. Maybe he surprises us. Maybe he's that guy that provides that linebacker depth we've been needing. We're going to find out. But Deontay Johnson is a guy I definitely think you'll see in the camp this year. And he's going to have a chance at that point to go ahead and be a guy that gets a shot at getting a legit position on this roster. He is a free agent. So we'll preface it with that. So we'll have to see. But I assume the Giants will bring him back. He's going to be cheap. They only gave him $500,000 last year, which I know sounds like nothing in football, but hand me $500,000.
Yeah, right. for 4 years worth of work. Yeah, thank you.
Seriously, I'll take it. Otherwise, it'll take me 4 or 5 years to get that much. So I'll take it. So like I said, linebacker overall is an interesting position because we got a big hitter up top. We got a couple of okay guys. And then we got some guys that are just special teamers. That it. Like I said, I think that's the biggest issue we got to look at this year in this group is we got to try to get some guys in there that are special teamers and linebackers. And what I'd like to see us do specifically is get guys that could be linebackers that are specifically good at coverage. You look at what we got. You got Micah McFadden. You got, Deontay Johnson. You got Darius Muasau. You got guys who are not good at coverage. The best way to combat that is to go get guys that are good in coverage. Crazy suggestion. Crazy, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just talking mad crazy here. So, all righty, guys. So that's going to end the show here for tonight for you guys.
Should we talk about this weekend's football games?
Oh, my God. I didn't even do our picks this weekend. I didn't even do it. I totally forgot about it.
You bonehead. All right. Well,
you know what? I know.
As you look up the stats, I could just go on sports. Just look it up. Anyway, at 3:00 on Sunday, you got Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Commanders. You got Jalen Hurts possibly injured. Who knows how injured is he? He's probably going to play, but he did look a little beat up after last week. What is read is also Bark might be a little injured too, which no surprise there. But once again, it's a playoff game, and
Are you still hitting Barkley down for the injury issues with the Giants?
you have to, especially when you talk about he might be injured. That's word of the street today.
Yeah, I know.
That like, he's probably going to play, but like he's could be a little banged up. As you got Jalen Hurts coming off looking like Eminem in 8 Mile, just owning Detroit.
Go to
3-1-3, you know me. 3-3.
Watch YouTube take us down. You guys are using copyright and stuff. You can't do this. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But divisional rival game. Which is amazing. I'm pretty sure they went 1-1 this year, did they not?
You know what? I'd have to look it up, to be honest with you. Again, I'm not prepared. I totally forgot about that part. I was so busy setting up the rest of the segments, I completely forgot about that part.
You son of a...
Oh, yeah. It happens. Listen.
I'll tell you guys right now. So the Commanders, December 22nd, beat the Eagles 36-32. And then on November 14th, the first meeting, Eagles won 26-18. So the 1-1, they've always played each other tough. Last year, that was the first loss to the Eagles, I believe, was from the Commanders.
All I know is my picks are on the pick sheet and yours are not.
Oh, geez. As you literally did them right in front of me on the show.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was always prepared as always. I was a Boy Scout.
Oh, yeah.
To that one time with that Scoutmaster, I never went back again.
What did the Scoutmaster do to you?
Nothing. He said to say that.
Show me on the door with you. Anyway. Drew, tell me about this game since you got this right.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, what it boils down to, guys, let's be honest. The Commanders are playing with house money here. I don't think anybody expected, the Commanders to be there and beat the Lions. We certainly didn't expect it. Let's be honest. The Lions sure as hell didn't expect it. The
rest of the NFL didn't expect it either.
Seriously. So I give them a lot of credit. And listen, I hate to say this, but the Eagles have played extremely well all year long, mostly because now they have a good running back since we were stupid enough to give them. And, now they don't have to worry about counting on Jalen Hurts to go ahead and be the star when, quite frankly, he can't be. He's not that good. But I look at the fact that this defense also got turned around. Vic Fangio obviously came in and made a big difference in the defense. They got a lot of, young talent, as always they seem to, on defense now. Getting Quinyon Mitchell, who, me and Rob point blank said was going to be the best corner in this draft and would be really, really good. Just based on all the reports we saw in the Senior Bowl, we got very big on him very quickly. Cooper Jean came in also and helped out and rebuilt this whole secondary that prior to that had a senior citizen duo, going in there at that point that was in their 30s and quite frankly washed up. So, but they're still paying them a ton of money. So, like I said, the Eagles did a lot of good moves this year and it paid off. I got the Eagles to win this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think they'll win by a touchdown to 10 points, which isn't close either by any necessarily either. But I think it's going to be like that kind of game where they have a steady lead. They don't necessarily pull out away and do a 2-3 touchdown lead or anything crazy like that. But I think they'll have control of it, most of it. And that's a 6-point spread for the Eagles too. So the decent size spread for an NFC championship game. 47.5 being the over under. I do think it's going to be an under. It's just, I think that the defense for the Eagles is going to have something, cooked up there for Jaden Daniels. They've seen him twice, as good as he is. And I know it's the VR thing's getting big on the news on this point. Jaden Daniels is doing VR, and that's why he's winning. He's winning because he's different. And a lot of teams he's playing haven't seen him play yet. That's not to say he's not special. I still think he's a special talent. Anybody who knows the show knows Rob and I both said he is the best quarterback to come out of this draft class ahead of Caleb Williams. We were very clear on that, and we were very right so far. But I do think part of it is these teams haven't seen him play. He plays different than a lot of quarterbacks. He's like a toothpick running around back there at that point. It's a little different, The Eagles have seen him a couple times. That's going to help them in their favor. So I got Eagles to win. I got Eagles to cover, and I got under on the points. As much as I hate to say it, and I will love to be wrong and see the Commanders in the Super Bowl.
I was going to go Commanders, but it's hard for me looking at the history of how this goes. They're 1-1. I do think DC is going to cover. No, screw it. I'm just going to be opposite of you. That's what I was originally going to do. I didn't do it. I am going, you heard it here. DC. I'm going DC. I'm taking the Commanders to win this game. I'm taking, obviously, they're going to cover with that 6 points. I think Jaden Daniels on his tear. Like, you got to worry about the injuries going on with the Eagles. And yes, that defense has stepped up. But guess what also happened? Yes, the Eagles saw the Commanders twice this year. The Commanders also saw the Eagles twice. And you got Dan Quinn, who's the defensive coordinator, who's damn good at it, and who's now the head coach. And it's shown he's done a good job with that team. But I don't think defenses are going to show up in this game as much as people think. Yeah, there's going to be some sacks. There's going to be some interceptions. But I think it's going to be street football. It's going to be nice, nitty and gritty. I haven't said that in a while. Nitty and gritty football. And it's going to be back and forth, kind of like the last meeting. Just like a month ago when they met, what happened? It started off slow, but it was back and forth, back and forth. Teams are going to get down. They're going to start running the ball. They're going to start slinging the ball down the fields. And yeah, I think it's going to get on the over here. So,
yeah, like I said, I do think that it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's not going to be a blow up by any stretch of the imagination. I think the Eagles have too much experience in the postseason, and they're more seasoned, not just for playoffs, but overall on the roster. It's the Commanders' first year trying to get this team together, and they've already had there is no shame in them losing this game. I'll be very clear on that.
No, but NFL playoffs, as Giants fans, we know it's about the time when you get hot.
The games.
It's about the time when you get hot and things are going your way, and that's what's 100% what's going on for the Commanders right now. Like, they didn't start off the greatest. They stuck with it, but they have been playing really good football.
And I guarantee you, Jaden Daniels has Lenny Kravitz's "Are You Going to Go My Way" right now, playing right now through his MP3 player.
His MP3 player, yeah. I think they went obsolete before he was born.
He's got his Microsoft Zune going.
Yeah.
I really think it's going to take over the iPod personally, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Up next, the AFC Championship game is at 6:30. You got the Bills. You got the Chiefs hosting the Bills in their rematch. This is the fourth meeting in the past 5 years.
It seems like every year.
And it's
the Chiefs and the Bills, or the Chiefs and the Bengals, basically at this point.
Listen, it's pretty much in the past 5 years. The only team that's knocked out the Chiefs has been the Bengals when they went to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Well, not counting this year thus far, because obviously you don't know that. But they met the Bills 3 times.
Super Bowl this year, I can assure you on that one.
The Bills have met them 3 times, and that's been Josh Allen's kryptonite. Like, keeps losing to Mahomes. But I think it's the time to shine when you're playing right. And like, the Buffalo Bills have been playing great football. Granted, like, Kansas City has also played great football all year, but they've also played a lot closer games. Bills have been blowing out teams left and right, and they've lost more games than the Chiefs. Chiefs with the 1 loss, but
was that 2?
2 losses. Doesn't matter, because they're the top in the AFC. Was it 2? Oh, they lost. Yeah, you're right. They lost the last week. The last week of football. So 2 weeks. They lost 2 games. So 1 real loss. They sat all the starters in the game that didn't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take the Bills to win this game. I think it's their time, and obviously they're going to cover that. And I think it's going to be a back and forth game again. Like, I do think it's going to go to over. I'm going to go double upset this weekend in the over.
You know what? I think that as much as Jaden Daniels has Lenny Kravitz's "Are You Going to Go My Way" on his Microsoft Zune, I think Josh Allen has a little 3 doors down. He's saying, "If I go crazy, man, will you still call me Superman?" And no, because he's meeting his kryptonite once again. I got the Chiefs to win. Point blank, the Chiefs, until the Bills prove to me they can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, history tells me the Chiefs are going to win. And I do think Travis Kelce is somehow turned up a notch now and gone back to his old Travis Kelce. He looks amazing.
Break up Taylor Swift.
That's for sure. No, I think it's just the end is near for him. He's what, 35, I want to say.
He's up there, 34, 35.
He doesn't have much more in this league. And he still could play for a couple of years if he wants to. Like, listen, Tony Gonzalez was like, what almost 40 when he retired?
Yeah, he's close to 40, maybe 40.
I mean, maybe that's what happens for Kelsey. We talk about this for the next 5 years. But I do think Kelsey started to decline a little bit there. A little bit. He's still one of the best, tight ends in this league by far. But you saw a little bit of a decline this year. And he put it back up to that Kelsey standard last week. And I think that's what's going to happen. He's got that playoff push now. I think he'll get that last, 2 more games here and be the old Kelsey here for a couple weeks there. And I got the Chiefs to win. I got them to cover the 1.5 point spread because that's such a minor spread. It's not going to change my opinion on anything. And I have the under again on the 47.5, which is weird because 47.5 for both games.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was
the numbers. I'm like, is that right? No, that's right. So we'll see. But we'll find out. I mean, right now, so far, Rob, you've been kicking my butt in the postseason here. I still have my pretty good lead overall the season because I definitely won the regular season. I'm like the Detroit Lions here. Great record, and then choking in the playoffs. It just is what it is. But we'll see. We'll see who's right there this weekend. All right, guys. So that'll do it now. So again, we'll be back again for you guys Monday night for our next one here. So enjoy the weekend. Have a happy and safe one there. Stay warm during this Arctic blast here that everybody seems to be dealing with lately. What's the temperature there right now, Rob?
Right now it is in Jersey. It's 19 degrees. Over by the Toms River area.
Ooh, it is 47 degrees here in the Tampa Bay area, guys.
It was 9 degrees yesterday when I woke up to go to the gym.
Ooh.
9.
Somebody told me that the day, like, it's 9 degrees. I'm like, Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Yeah, it was. This whole week's been terrible. Tuesday, I've been in Philadelphia. Yesterday, I was in Manhattan. Today, I was in Brooklyn. I was walking around all these metropolitan areas in the wind, in the cold, freezing.
I had family texting me going, is it snowing down there in Florida where you're at? I'm like, no, that's northern Florida. We made sure we're out of that.
Yeah, there's some parts of Florida got 9-10 inches.
Yeah, I mean,
more than what we got.
Listen, they got 9-10 inches. Sounds painful.
To hang out with Mr. Ron Jeremy himself.
I think that's more than 900 inches probably, but it's besides the point. But yeah, we're supposed to go, I guess, starting on Sunday again. We warm up again. So I don't know about you guys, but we're back in the 60s Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Wow, until we see 60s.
And hit 70s again starting Wednesday. But I mean, if we're warming up, you guys are usually warming up as well. At least if it brings you to the 40s and 50s, that's tolerable.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think the next few weeks is going to be. The next few days is going to be like the high in the mid 30s, which is normal for this time of year. So it is what it is.
That's tolerable. So
yeah. Sundays should be 44.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So yeah, no, I'm seeing 30. I pulled up New York weather, but it's saying you guys are in the 30s basically the whole entire time. So that's why I moved out of there. Anyway, guys, we'll see you guys Monday night. Get your electric blanket going, get your fireplace going, get your s'mores going there, and get your hot cocoa. Maybe some hot toddy, who knows. We'll see you guys again on Monday. Again, appreciate you guys for watching, listening. As always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, whatever the hell you want to call it, Twitch, and of course, Rob's favorite, my profile. And of course, as always, we are available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms there: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the big ones there. If you haven't already, guys, again, please hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It really does help us out. Share the show to anybody that you think might enjoy it as well. We count on you guys for our marketing team there because, quite frankly, we can't afford a real marketing team. So I appreciate you guys for watching and listening as always. And as always, Giant fans,
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.